You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/kidsandfamily. Just go to Indeed.com/kidsandfamily right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.
Are you ready to learn the 3 secrets to launching a successful podcast? Hi, I'm Bill, a recent client of the Podcast Mogul. If you've been thinking about starting a podcast but aren't sure where to begin, he's got you covered. He is hosting a free webinar where he will share the 3 secrets that can help you launch, grow, and monetize your podcast without any fancy equipment or technical headaches. Click the link in the show notes to save your spot now and let him help get your podcast off the ground.
Welcome to Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. Join the podcast mogul Phil Better as he interviews successful entrepreneurs that make their living in the digital world. Now, let's join your host, Phil Better, and his special guest today on Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast.
Welcome back, dear listeners, to another episode of Invest in Yourself, the Digital Entrepreneur Podcast. I am your host, Phil Better, the podcast mogul, and today we have a truly inspiring guest joining us. She's a beacon of empowerment, a pioneer of the digital nomad lifestyle, and an expert in helping women entrepreneurs manifest their dream lives. So our guest today is just not a speaker or coach. She's a force of nature in the realm of personal development and entrepreneurship. Hailing from Scandinavia, raised amidst the hustle and bustle of Los Angeles, and now calling the vibrant city of San Francisco Bay Area her home base, our guest embodies the spirit of a global citizen. Through her journeys and experiences, our guest has honed her craft in guiding women entrepreneurs to not only up-level their finance, but also to manifest the lives they've always dreamed of. And now more intriguing is that she does this all while embracing the digital nomad lifestyle, running her personal development company from her laptop, no matter where her adventure takes her. Listeners, get ready to be inspired and ready to learn, and get ready to invest in yourself as we welcome the one and only Sandra Possing to the podcast. Sandra, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you so much for having me. That was a really epic intro. I'm going to have you rewrite all my bios for me.
I am more than happy to do that for you. I always view myself, I've always wanted to be like an actor on stage and all this, but I love hip hop. So I'm like, I have my own podcast. I can be that radio, that TV personality, but I always love the hype person before the rapper comes out, or just during the show is hyping you up. So I look at myself as a hype person for my podcast guest.
Yeah.
If you want, I'm very cheap to hire. Well, not cheap. I'm inexpensive. I don't like the word cheap, but I'm inexpensive to hire, and I'll be more than happy to help push you to the grandest stages of them all before you come talking on them.
Everybody needs a hype man. I was just thinking, the gym I go to, there's a gentleman there who every day he's wearing a bright neon yellowish green shirt, like multiple layers of them, and it's like he makes every single person in the room feel like the most special person in the room whenever he's talking to them, and he's always like dancing and moving around. And I was saying yesterday, I'm like, man, I need to hire him as like my hype man, just to follow me around. And I think we all need one. Like we all need our personal Paul to be our hype man. Like people like that are just so great.
They're great to have in your lives, because you know it when you're doing bad, you just call them up and then boom, your level of happiness just goes up and you forget why you were sad.
Like, I'd like to place an order for a pep talk, please.
Pep talk with Phil. But yeah, so now that we've hyped you up, Sandra, I want to know, why did you become an entrepreneur?
Oh man, now that I look back, with the wisdom of hindsight, it's like the signs were there very early on. I wouldn't have known how to understand the cues early on though. So I just kind of was bumbling my way through my childhood and my upbringing in my early 20s. But the first sort of clues that started to push me in the direction of entrepreneur were, like you mentioned, I'm born in Scandinavia, but raised in LA. So just right off the bat, I moved to LA when I was 5. And so I've always lived, not like a double life, but, I've gone back and forth and I have family in two places, in two cultures. And so as soon as I started kind of getting ready to graduate high school and think about college and think about career and job and things like that, I was like, this whole kind of American system of 2 weeks of vacation per year, I was like, that's just not going to work for me. I mean, a lot of other countries are a lot better about more vacation, but the standard kind of I was just like, that's not going to work. How am I going to? And so that was kind of the first clue of like the normal 9 to 5 corporate thing might not be on the table, but that I had no clue what anything that was not that was, So I was like, okay, I kind of had that tucked away. And then another clue was after college, I got recruited by some friends who hung out with like a lot of really nerdy computer science programmer dudes. And they recruited me to a startup of theirs. And then I moved from LA to San Francisco and I got recruited by some other friends into another startup. And I really liked being around. I just thought they were, people were doing cool things. They were like innovators. They were, challenging the status quo. They were kind of disruptors. And so I just liked being around that energy. And I thought I was like, I just like being around these like smart, nerdy people doing cool shit, like that's what I figured. And then after a while, I was like, wait a minute. The analogy was like someone who's a nanny and loves taking care of other people's babies all the time. And then it's like, wait a minute, maybe I want my own baby instead of just hanging out with everybody else's other people's babies. And that was kind of my experience. I was like, wait a minute, I love being around all these entrepreneurs doing cool stuff, but like, maybe I want to be the entrepreneur doing cool stuff. So it's like the things started kind of falling into place, but I still had no idea what that would be. Like what business would I start? What would be my product? So it was like multiple years in the making where I was just starting to like fit things, but I still didn't have a clear path at all. And then it was eventually, I kind of like process of elimination my way through multiple different jobs in my 20s. It was like, oh, nope, not finance. Oh, not that, not that. And then I eventually found fitness. I kind of got recruited into this boot camp that I was going to. And they said, hey, you should be a trainer for us. And I was like, you're going to pay me to work out? Yes, Luke. Okay, I'll do that. And so I was doing fitness and I got, just kind of sucked into the fitness world because it was so fun. It was outdoor, like 6 a.m. San Francisco. We're running around watching the sunrise, amazing people. So I loved it, but I knew it was a chapter. I was like, I'm not going to do fitness forever, but there's something here. Like there's something about walking. You watch a client come in and do like a 6-week boot camp and you watch them walk away and you're like, that is a different human than the one that walked in here. Yes, maybe they're a little stronger, a little fitter, but they have changed on the inside. And I was like, whatever that is, I like that. But it's not, fitness is not the vehicle. It's not push-ups. It's not nutrition. It's that whole like making them stronger on the inside thing, whatever that is. So that was another clue. Everything's kind of starting to come together. But I still couldn't have said like, this equals, you're going to be a coach or anything.
Yeah.
Luckily, though, through the fitness world, the coaching world was like still new back then, but it was kind of adjacent. So I started meeting coaches and being like, what is this thing that you all do that you seem to love what you're doing, you're helping people, but like you set your own schedule too. And like you seem to have all this freedom. WTF, what is this? What is this medical industry? And I started literally sitting down every coach I could find and basically buying them lunch and interrogating them. And was like, tell me everything. What is this thing? And then once I started to understand the coaching industry, I was like, I feel like I was made for this. I've been reading self-help books since I could read. But I just didn't know that I knew there was like motivational speakers, which to me meant like really cheesy guys from the 80s with slicked back hair and like sad windowless conference rooms. Yeah, with like cheesy brochures. And I was like, it's not that. But then I started understanding the coaching industry and like looked around, found some programs, eventually found the program that ended up being where I did my coach training. And it was like, I walked into the room the first day and I had this overwhelming sensation of like, I am home. These are my people. And the room was full of like really weird, quirky people from all walks of life, all ages. There was people who had been like, I've been a doctor for 40 years and this is just my pivot, or somebody who's like, I'm a therapist and I want to have more freedom with my clients. There was like people who were 20, people who were 80. It was all over the place.
Wow.
And yeah, never looked back. And that was back in like 2011.
So so over a decade now, you've been helping, empowering people to the next level. When did you decide to pretty much niche down to women? Because obviously you can be an empowering coach for everyone or for, business people or things. What made you decide that you wanted to niche into helping specifically females?
I would say the niche kind of chose me more than me choosing it in a lot of ways. I do still technically work with people of all genders, and I have, but in 12 years of doing this and after working with many hundreds of clients, I would say probably 90% of them have been women. You could argue that maybe that's because women are typically more open to this kind of work or seeking it out, that kind of a thing, or maybe women are more likely to hire a female coach because they feel comfortable with that or whatever it is. But I would say the main reason that I've become so passionate about focusing on women specifically and certain kinds of women is because it's my journey. It's the journey that I understand the most. Like, I was trained as a life coach, and I've been a life coach for a long time. So technically I can coach a lot of people in a lot of different things. I've helped so many clients with their careers. Living in the San Francisco Bay Area, people are very obsessed with their careers here and making money and doing well and prestige and climbing the ladder and all of that. So I naturally get a lot of those people just because of my geographic location. I've helped a lot of people with their health and fitness, probably because I'm in that world too, just as an enthusiast. And so people see me and they're like, you look fit, you must know what you're doing. How do you, so I get some of those people too. I get a lot of folks around relationships and things too, because my husband and I have a very amazing kind of communication and relationship. We're very open about it. And so people sort of come to us for counsel on those things too. But at the end of the day, what I've always really helped people with the most is their relationship with themselves. And I think, we can help people with things that we have knowledge about, or we can help them just because we're a good coach. But the thing that I think I help people with the best, which is probably true for most of us who are in this type of a helper profession, is with the challenges that I've been through myself, and the challenges I've been through myself have mostly been related to my relationship with myself. So it's everything around like people pleasing, being the good girl, the perfectionist, high achiever, living in this very achievement-based paradigm where it's like your worth equals your achievement. And so the untangling so much of that for myself has, I feel like, led me to be the most qualified to do that for other women who have struggled with the same thing. And so empowering women who are kind of, they have so much potential. And I can, like, when I talk to them, I can see, it's like, I was saying this to a new client the other day. I was like, part of my gift / curse is when I'm talking to someone, I feel like I'm talking to two people. I'm talking to them as they are right now. And I'm like also seeing like their higher self or their potential right next to them. And I get so excited because I can see them and I can see basically the exact pathway to get them there, but not everyone's ready. They're like getting ready to be ready, or they're not willing to do the work, or they're too scared to invest in themselves, that kind of a thing. And so that's like part of my weight that I have, burden that I have to bear or carry sometimes, is not everyone's ready, and I can't force it on them and I can't do it for them. They have to be willing to step up to the plate. And I get so much fulfillment out of helping women, especially who are struggling with those like self-worth things, the boundaries, speaking up for themselves, being more assertive, because I know the struggle so darn well because I've been through it myself. I was joking with my husband the other day. I was like, the question that I get the most often, literally my whole entire life, has been either, are you a swimmer because of my shoulders, or just comments about my shoulders, because I have big, broad, like, I kind of look like an Amazon woman. So
You look like I wouldn't want to. I wouldn't want to meet you in a dark alley. Let's just say it that way. I'm a big guy, but still, I see those broad shoulders. I'm like, yeah, she could probably hurt me.
The funny thing is, I'm like the nicest person too. But so it's like I get these comments and questions about my shoulders all the time. And would it be easy for me to create some online program like how to get shoulders like this in 6 weeks? Sure, I could advertise that, but it wouldn't feel in integrity for me, because I literally haven't done much for them. Like, I kind of came out of womb like this. This is mostly genetic. No matter what, I can be so fit or not very fit at all. Shoulders look the same. It's like my midsection that changes, So it's like, I wouldn't feel authentic teaching people how to get shoulders like this, because it's just been easy for me. Kind of same thing. Like, it wouldn't feel authentic to me to be like a relationship coach, because I've always had a pretty easy time with like dating people and relationships and communication. I work on it, but it's come easily to me. The things that have not come easily to me, that's where I've put like all my personal focus. That's where I've been through just the ringer. I've felt the lowest of the lows in those places. So I get it. I get the struggle. That's why I also love helping women with financial empowerment, because I've been there. I get it, And so it's just like being able to walk with someone through the shadows and not just the high points is so amazing.
I like saying that. You like getting into those dark places, spreading that light, moving them from the low to the high so that they can become their higher self. And interestingly enough, how you say you're speaking to two people, because you can see where they are today, and obviously you can see where they are in the future when they're fully embraced in their authenticity, they're in alignment, if you will, with everything. And now that you mention it, sometimes I do see that when I'm talking with some people. I can say like, "Oh, look at all you've accomplished. Like you've done all this. Like you're over here. Why are you thinking you're down here?"
Yeah.
So I really resonate with that. I'm interested. We do have a female base here that is listening in, and I would love for you to possibly maybe provide a piece of advice, because you mentioned, bringing in your authentic self and that those struggles. Is there a tip, a piece of advice that you could maybe provide the listeners? Let's focus mainly on our female listeners right now, that could help them maybe start transitioning into their higher self.
Yeah. So I would say that probably the core of everything I do with all my clients is knowing ourselves. It's the authenticity. I'm doing this because it's like the foundation of the whatever building we're going to build on top of it.
Right.
Something I see so commonly with a lot of my clients, because I get these high achievers who have kind of followed the traditional roadmap to success. They're like, I ticked all the boxes. I got the good job, good education, started my family, da da da. On paper, their life and their work looks perfect, but they're like, I'm not happy. What is wrong with me? Why am I broken? And the work that I get to do with them is basically untangling all of, we're not like scrapping everything they've done. What they've done is amazing. It's just they've created this identity for themselves that is based on who they thought they should be. And they created a life and work for themselves based on what they thought they should go out and do in the world. And sometimes they get lucky and it's a match. But I would say for most of us, most of the time, it's based on our conditioning. It's based on societal expectations. It's based on keeping up the Joneses and what what we thought would impress our parents' friends and stuff like that. And so there's oftentimes so much of a misalignment there. And then what we'll do is kind of untangle that and just try to get to the core of who they really are. And the way I do that is a lot of work around things like, what are their core values? One thing I'm always looking for is like, what actually lights you up? Because there's a huge difference. Like when somebody's doing or talking about or thinking about what they should do, the energy's like, wah, wah. And like, maybe they've filled their whole life with a bunch of stuff they think they should be doing. And it's like they feel drained, they feel blah, they feel like burnt out, all these things. Whereas I'll take somebody who's like high achiever, super, super busy. They don't have time for like 5 new hobbies, but we'll start to look for like, what is that thing? What are those things that actually make you come alive? And sometimes just opening like a tiny little window to one thing. Like maybe it's somebody who used to love to dance, but they don't give themselves permission to dance because they think it's frivolous and it's, selfish, not have time for that, I have kids, a job, whatever. And I'm like, you will dance for one song for 5 minutes every day, turn on a song you like while you're in the bathroom, pretend you're taking a shower, like just dance or do whatever the thing is that connects them a little bit to their aliveness. And it's like plugging themselves into this new energy source that they didn't even know they had access to. So it's things like that. It's like connecting back home to who you really are, which can be like, for some people, they haven't met their true self ever. For some people, they haven't seen that version of themselves in 20 years. So it's not overnight. It can take a little bit of digging. Like they might have to poke around and back in their memory banks or try new things or just experiment and see like what actually makes me come alive. But once we start to collect more of those things, then it's just like doing more of what makes you come alive, doing more of what makes you feel like yourself and less of what doesn't. And then we start to get really clear, more and more clear on just who am I? Like identity. Who am I at my core? And who do I want to be? There's like, who have I been up until now because of conditioning and whatever? And then there's kind of who am I right now if I peel back all the layers, which I think our core identity kind of stays the same throughout our life. But then we get to evolve too and grow. And then it's like, who am I stepping into? I do a lot of future self work with clients. And I'm like, that's some of the most exciting because of like my future self. She is such a badass. I'm so in awe of her. I talk to her all the time. Like she is my guide, Do I show up as her every day? Absolutely not. Maybe 20% of the time when I even remember, but I'm constantly working and I have her as this target, and then I'm like, anytime I'm kind of like lost or doubting myself, I'm like, what would future self do? Oh yeah. And then it helps me kind of like snap into that. And that's where it starts to get really exciting because our future self should be someone that we're like,
Oh my God, I can't wait to meet them.
Right? Yeah. So yeah, authenticity and identity work is where it starts for me.
I think that is some incredible things. And like you touched on a lot of points that I, as an elder millennial, feel like, because I remember growing up being told you should get a job with a bank or, become a lawyer. You should do this. Don't become an actor because, you know, it's hard work and you may not make it, only 10% make it or something like that. And I was miserable. And now that you were saying this, like, yeah, I've been pulling back those layers, trying to find the core of what makes Phil happy. And luckily, I've had podcasting for over a decade now. And I know this lights up my fire because I get to meet amazing people like yourself, Sandra. I get to teach people about podcasting and share my hobby in that. So like, luckily I found that little spark, as you said, like the dancing or something. I have that, so I've been able to refuel my batteries. But yeah, I really did resonate with the peeling back the layers and who I am today and who I want to be in the future. I'm definitely going to be starting to take a look at that and do a bit more future projecting, if you will, or future dreaming of who I am.
It's
I want to know, what has been maybe what you consider the biggest investment in yourself that you've done to date? Now, it could be monetary, like you've paid that gym membership for life, or it could be a lesson that like burnt you, but it taught you something and you were able to invest in yourself. What has been maybe what you seem to say is your biggest investment in yourself?
I would say for me, the one that is biggest in the sense that it's been the most sort of meaningful and helpful to me is, and not any one investment. It's like a series of micro investments over time, some bigger than others financially, but also a lot of time. And that's everything that I've invested into working on my money mindset. Interestingly, because like I said, there's a lot of other parts of my life. Like when it comes to manifestation and things like that, I would say I'm someone who sort of easily manifests my desires, which is part of like why I'm so obsessed with manifestation and why I teach a lot of it too, just because I think it's so magical and fun and cool. And it's become very clear to me that the areas where I manifest easily and like, I just kind of, you know, people of the current generation would probably call it lucky girl syndrome. If you're an OG in the manifestation space, you would call it the law of assumption, but it's like walking around with this assumption of like things always work out for me, or like I'm the luckiest girl in the world. I have that very clearly in certain areas, and then very clearly not in other areas. And it's been so fascinating to me to try to figure out why. You know, like I said, like fitness, health, like maybe there's some genetic predispositions there, but also I'm like, it's always just been really easy for me to stay healthy and fit. Like I just kind of do the thing and it's easy. Same thing, relationships, dating, that always came easily. Career, self-worth, and money, not at all. Like not at all easy. Like, and not for lack of trying. It was like, especially when it comes to manifestation and doing those things, I was like doing all the right things. But what I started to notice is like, it was almost like the difference between how much resistance I had versus not. And the areas where I attracted things to me very easily, I just had zero resistance. And I already had a very strong core identity. Like it's health and fitness is easy for me because I identify as an athlete. I identify as a healthy person. It was like never, it was just so out of the realm of possibility for me that I would ever be out of weight, overweight or like not work out or something. I'm pregnant right now, so things are looking a little different than
We don't count pregnancy. Pregnancy doesn't count. Like you're creating life. You're allowed to be out of shape. Like
totally.
Take a chill pill there.
And I'm only 10 weeks in, so it's still early, but it's like the energy level and like what I'm able to do is just so different. So I'm adjusting my expectations there. But you know, typically health is really easy. And so then I look at the areas like career, that was so hard for me, self-worth, that was so hard for me. And then everything related to my relationship with money was so hard for me. And when I dig deeper, it's like I had so much resistance there. And so much of that resistance was just layers and layers of really mixed messaging and conditioning, mostly from my childhood and growing up, but then also my own layers of like self-doubt and imposter syndrome and all this kind of stuff. So it's so interesting to look. I'm not even sure what your original question was at this point because I've taken us in a couple circles. But biggest investment was money mindset, because this ended up being such a difficult area for me that I've been like pouring time and energy into trying to like crack the code for myself of like, what is it? How am I getting in my own way with this? And so I would say over, I don't know, the last 5 or 10 years, I've invested a lot in some of it just, you know, books and courses and free podcasts and things like that too, but also working with mentors, specifically a lot of business coaches, things like that. And not only has that helped so much with my own relationship with money, but the thing I love about working on relationship with money is it's like a portal to all of our deepest, darkest other stuff. Like you want to dig into your childhood trauma, look at your relationship with money. It's fascinating.
I would rather not. Thank you very much.
Well, and that's the thing. Money is such a weird topic for most of us because of our collective conditioning too. It's like, you're not supposed to talk about it. It's rude to ask someone how much they make. It's rude to ask someone, you know, it's rude to talk about it like this. So we have all these twisted things around it. And I'm like, no, let's talk about it. Let's get really real about it. And the more we talk about it, the more we normalize talking about it. So then it's not so like shrouded in shame and mystery, like weirdness, but also then we end up like peeking in behind the kimono of so many interesting parts of ourselves. Like I've discovered parts of myself through working on money mindset that I don't even know if I would have discovered otherwise. It was like things that just, little like rabbit holes that led to learning things about myself in my past. Really, really cool. So super grateful for those investments.
I like that. I like that how that one investment has paid off in a multiple of different ways than you originally thought it would. And it's a great testament to investing in yourself on one thing, because it can lead to a cascade effect of growing multiple different things. You mentioned manifestation a lot, and I'm very interested in it because the concept of manifesting is one's dream life is intriguing. Could you delve a little deeper into how you help women entrepreneurs unlock their potential and overcoming any limiting beliefs or obstacles standing in their way of achieving their goals?
Yeah. So sometimes we have external circumstances that get in our way. Sometimes there are, very real, like, life things, other people, cost of living where you live, sometimes there's other people or things standing in our way. But I would say, at least in my world and the kind of work I do, most people readily admit they're like, I'm the problem. Like, I'm the one that's in my own way. Usually what's cool is like when I get on an initial consultation or something with someone, I'll ask them a ton of questions. We'll just kind of get clear on what they want, what they're looking for. And when we get to some questions around like, what are the hurdles, what's standing in your way and stuff, I'm like, what are the external things? What are the internal things? Most of them are like, well, like, okay, yeah, San Francisco's expensive, or, I have a really needy partner or something like that. But like most of the time they're like, but it's me. It's my self-doubt. It's my imposter syndrome. It's my perfectionism. It's my people pleasing. It's my, fear of failure. It's my fear of success. And so they list off all these things about how they get in their own way. And so I think what's so cool about unlocking your own potential is so much of it is just the awareness of the fact that we're getting in our own way, the very many different interesting flavors of how we get in our own way, which is unique to each of us. It's like, there's a lot of patterns. And after, hundreds of clients, most of them I could lump into certain universal categories, but each of us has such a unique combination of the ways we get in our own way. And so much of the power of unlocking that potential is just the awareness, and then recognizing what our own unhelpful tendencies are, our own unhelpful patterns, starting to just shift some of those. You don't have to like crush them or defeat them or anything like that. I think of it as like recognizing that most of the things that we do that are not serving us anymore didn't serve a purpose in the past. And so it's like looking at all these unhelpful tendencies more as like, these were protection mechanisms from our childhood. These were the ways that as like little young ones, we were just trying to survive or be safe in however we grew up. And we've kept most of that armor on us. We just haven't learned how to put it down yet. And so a lot of it is just like recognizing, wow, I have this big piece of armor on me. I don't need it anymore. And I'm really scared to put it down because I don't know who I am without it, but it's okay. So it's a lot of just like gently and very compassionately, like thanking the parts of ourselves that were keeping us safe and then putting them aside. Sometimes we have to put down the same piece of armor like 100 million times before we finally leave it on the ground.
Because it's piece by piece. We're taking off smaller pieces of it. That's what we're doing, because we don't trust fully that we'll be safe without it. It's like your blanket when you're a baby, or if you're a child.
I was just saying that to a client the other day she was like, I just realized that I have these amazing friends and I gravitate to the friends who treat me like shit. And then when the friends who are actually really nice to me, I'm afraid to let them in. I'm afraid to get close to them because, she's like, I grew up in a chaotic family. So I'm used to the toxicity. I'm not used to people who are actually nice and care about me. And so we're talking about like, she doesn't have to take off all her armor at one time and like stand there fully naked and vulnerable. I was like, take off the piece of armor that's like on your pinky finger and then take off like your shoelace, just start there. And maybe also admit to your friends like, hey, I want to be more like vulnerable with you all. I'm just terrified. So like, be patient with me, and tell them that. And anyway, side tangent, but I think the awareness of what gets in our own way and then starting to like lovingly and compassionately and without any like making ourselves bad or wrong, without shaming ourselves, we just start to, shed those layers little by little. And the more we do that, the more we feel lighter and like more free. And then we have, instead of coming from this place of like a stress response and fight or flight or fawn or freeze or trauma or like this shut down place, we start to feel more grounded, more open, more relaxed, more healthy. And then from that place, we can access our creativity. We can access our intuition, which I think of as like our direct portal to the limitless resources of the universe, which I'm like, if I'm going to create anything in my life, I could do it with like my tiny human brain and my logic, which is small, or I could tap into everything that's out there through the universe. I'm like, I'm going to go with the latter. Probably get a little further that way. And so then it's like we're working through our own stuff. We're toning down our resistance, and we're opening ourselves up to co-creating with something that's much bigger than we are. And then I think we start to, we get, and there's many different formulas and things we can use for manifestation, but let's say most of them ultimately end up being something like you figure out what it is that you want, you set some intentions or goals, and then you I think of it as like we get our brain and our body on board, because our brain is going to be really good at limiting beliefs and fears and all that kind of stuff. And our body's going to be really good at like resisting, and nervous system is just going to like shut down and shy away from anything that feels uncomfortable. So there's so many processes and things we can do to get our brain, our body on board, feel comfortable. And then we just take a ton of action. But it's like we're taking action by following we're not just being super logical and rational and like, what's the next step to get from A to B? We're also like open to little pings from the universe. And we're open to little nudges and like random ass ideas that just pop into our head out of nowhere, seemingly. That's intuition. And then that starts moving us so much more quickly toward our desires. And then we practice so much gratitude and do lots of surrendering and just like trusting. And there's so many other fun things. But when we start to move away from this like contracted, rigid, shut down, like not good enough way of living in general, when we put down that armor and then start to relax into like a lighter, more playful way of being, we put out such a different frequency, such a different vibration that I think starts to attract, like we start becoming an energetic match for our desires, and we start to collapse time. That's where identity work and future self and that kind of stuff comes into play. And it just, everything feels better. Everything's easier. It works better. It's more fun. Like life becomes this fun, playful adventure rather than this like slog.
I have to agree with you. It's like when I'm in the zone, like when you get into the zone, when you're working on something and everything just like, you're in a slipstream of time, like just disappears, and you're just like hyperspace, bringing in the Star Trek nerd in me, you hit warp 9 and like the stars just pull along. That's what happens when you get into the zone. And like, I guess it's when you start removing that armor and you go into the authentic self, and you just get into this time warp, if you will.
Exactly. Some manifestation teachers would call that the vortex.
Ooh, the vortex. Okay, well,
The vortex.
We are coming to the end, and I wish I manifested more time for this podcast, but I'm glad that it did come to pass, because I think it's been a really incredible episode. I know you shared stuff with me that I'm going to definitely be taking into my daily practice, so I want to thank you for that. And before we leave here, this is actually me forecasting stuff in the future, because I am writing a little book for my nephew, who's 5 years old right now, of advice from amazing entrepreneurs like yourself, Sandra, for when he turns 10. So I have your 10-year-old self here. She's an amazing spitfire of an individual. She's full of energy, I must say. She's asked me if I wanted water about a dozen times. But I would love to know, what's one piece of advice you would love to be able to hand back to your 10-year-old self?
I would say that it is safe to be you.
I love that. Very simple, straight to the point. I love it. Sandra, I'm going to jump off the screen here. I want you to let the audience know where they can connect with you. If there's women looking for an empowering coach or someone to help them with the manifestation, how they can get in touch with you. So the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. Well, one thing I would love to offer, especially for anyone who likes listening to podcasts and who is into feeling more empowered and starting to create the reality that you want, like manifesting your dream life, but also manifesting the financial reality that you desire, I have a little free gift for you. It is a 3-part pop-up podcast that's called Making You Magnetic. As you know, I'm all about the identity work, and especially future self identity work and manifestation and collapsing time and stepping into this next level version of ourselves. So Making You Magnetic is about essentially embodying your future wealthy woman and starting to attract the abundance you desire. And the great thing about it, even though we're talking mostly about financial empowerment and manifesting money and abundance and feeling more secure and grounded in your journey financially, the same principles apply to all of our desires. So you can listen through the whole thing and apply it to your money situation. And then you can also apply it to all of your other desires as well. And that's at makingyouMagnetic.com. So that's free. And if you want to connect with me, I'm very, very easy to find. I'm at Sandra Possing on everything. So sandrapossing.com is my website. And then I'm at Sandra Possing on all the social medias as well.
Amazing, Sandra. I can't thank you enough for coming on the show and sharing how to manifest a life worth living, how to take yourself to the next being, to be the higher self. It was an incredible interview. Thank you so much.
Thank you so much for having me. And I'm a little under the weather too, so hopefully I'm not so congested or too nasal right now. But I think my enthusiasm showed through anyway.
It definitely did. If you did not tell me, I would not have known the weather or that you were even pregnant. Again, congratulations on the pregnancy, and I can't wait for the announcement to celebrate.
Exciting new adventure for sure.
Yeah. To my audience, of course, the show notes will have all the links to Sandra, especially that pop-up podcast, so that you guys can listen to it and manifest and attract what you want and take yourself to the next level. I thank you all so much for listening, and remember to always invest in yourself.
Thanks for tuning in. Now it's time to take the next step. When you're ready to dive deeper into how to launch, grow, and monetize your podcast, Phil's got something special for you. Join him for a free webinar where he'll reveal the 3 secrets that have helped countless entrepreneurs succeed in podcasting. Click the link in the show notes to save your spot, and let's turn your podcasting dreams into reality.
You just realized your business needed to hire someone yesterday. How can you find amazing candidates fast? Easy. Just use Indeed. Stop struggling to get your job post seen on other job sites. With Indeed sponsored jobs, your post jumps to the top of the page for your relevant candidates, so you can reach the people you want faster. According to Indeed data, sponsored jobs posted directly on Indeed have 45% more applications than non-sponsored jobs. Don't wait any longer. Speed up your hiring right now with Indeed. And listeners of this show will get a $75 sponsored job credit to get your jobs more visibility at Indeed.com/kidsandfamily. Just go to Indeed.com/kidsandfamily right now and support our show by saying you heard about Indeed on this podcast. Terms and conditions apply. Hiring? Indeed is all you need.